today is something known as self-hosted integration runtime. Right now, we've discussed it before. I told you that there are multiple types of integration runtime, and one of it is self-hosted integration runtime. Uh, if I take you to Azure Data Factory, right? Azure Data Factory, or you can just search for data factories also. Right? Data factories V1 is not there anymore. V2 is there. MCT subscription. Let's click on create. So today I'll show you something very interesting. Right? Just wait for it. Code. Wait. So I'll select a resource group. NIC resource group. Let it be. The name of I'll call it as NIC Data Factory. Data Factory 1. Region and let it be East US. Version. Let it be East US 2. Oh, sorry, East US version. Let it be V2. And let's just review and create this. Let me click on create. And while this is getting created, I will create one more resource, and that is a virtual machine. All right. I'll create something called as an SHIR VM. All right. So this is to show you how you create a self-hosted integration runtime. What is self-hosted integration runtime? I'll touch upon that also. I'll explain it to you from the very basics. All right. But before we get into self-hosted integration runtime, to understand what it is, what is integration runtime, right? One thing that we need to understand is what all resources are required. So basically what I'm trying to do here is, let me draw the scenario for you. It's getting created, right? Virtual machine, create new virtual machine. Or I think I can use the same Terraform VM also, not a problem. So I'll start it. Like, it's currently stopped. Click on start. All right. So what we've understood until now is that data movement along with data transformation, what does it require? It requires compute. Compute means CPU and RAM. Without compute, I cannot move the data, right? It's not that I do not need any processing power or CPU or memory. And without that, I can just move my data from one place to the other, right? Even when you write a very simple program, right? Whether it's a Python program or a C++ program, right? C program. Even those programs to execute, they will take some of the memory, right? You would already know that even if you want to run very small programs, right? Let's say calculating something or doing something, it will take some memory. So these are much larger operations, correct? These are much larger operations. Data movement and data transformation is a much larger operation if you compare it to a simple, uh, let's say addition, sum function or subtraction function, right? So therefore, compute is required. Now, while creating the Azure Data Factory resource, at no place Azure asks you to create compute. You are not asked to create any compute, right? For example, when we created a virtual machine, I create compute. When I create a SQL database, I create a compute, right? When I create a dedicated SQL pool in Synapse, I created compute. So in majority of the resources, I will have to create my own compute. But that is not the case with ADF here. So any resource you create, you have to define the compute also, right? If you remember in SQL database, we created the serverless SQL compute. In virtual machine, I select how much how much CPU I want, how much RAM I want. In dedicated SQL pool, we created something called as uh, DWU, right? Data warehousing units, right? So the DWU was there. We can select from multiple options that you have. So any resource you create that requires compute, Azure will ask you to create the compute. But I just created Azure Data Factory resource in front of you, and all I gave was just the name, right? If I show it to you again, this virtual machine is started now. Let's connect to it also. Let me download the RDP file. If I go to data factories, right? This is the data factory that I had created. If I click on create again, just to show you, basic details asks for subscription, name, region, version. Git configuration is basically to connect it to a version control system. Networking is there. Advanced section is there, but that already talks about encryption. Tags are nothing but you apply a key value pair to for the billing purpose, and then review and create. So at no place Azure Data Factory asked me to create a compute. And that is the whole benefit of using Azure Data Factory, that Azure will provide the compute from backend. All right. So Azure provides the compute. This compute is never fixed. It depends on your logic, whatever data movement you've defined, whatever data transformation you've defined. Based on that logic, the compute will be provisioned. If there is a requirement to scale up or scale down the compute, who will take care of it? Azure. Azure will take up, any scaling if that is required. Azure will take care of it from the backend itself. You don't have to do anything. This type of compute that Azure provides, Azure provided compute in Azure Data Factory is called as Azure Integration Runtime. Correct? Now, within the Azure portal, this name may also be used as Auto Resolve Integration Runtime. All right. Now, this Auto Resolve Integration Runtime will have something called as a type, and the type will always be Azure. Therefore, we also refer it to Azure Integration Runtime. All right. So the compute that Azure provides you by default for your data movement, for your data transformation is called as Azure Integration Runtime. It's the name of that compute, right? So if I go to my data factory, let's see, I already created data factory resource. Let me open it. Let me launch the data factory studio. Now within data factory, if I go to the manage section on the left hand side, there is something called as integration runtimes. All right, this is where all your integration runtimes, whether it's uh, the Azure integration runtime, the default one. Now you see this is auto resolve integration runtime and the type is mentioned as Azure, right? It is currently running. It will always run, but it is not attached to you. Its billing is not attached to you. Call it will always run. And related section shows zero because it is not being used anywhere. Now integration runtimes are used by many services, right? Within Data Factory. Whenever you create a link service, it will use Azure integration runtime. Link service will define the integration runtime because that is where you are connecting to data stores. All right. So link service is helping you establish that connection and it will also help you with data movement and data transformation. All right. So now what happens here is, let's see, link service, you understand? Theory, you understand what link services are?
Yeah, Shreyas, I'm following.
All right. Link service is basically from your ADF, there are multiple types of sources like I want to put data into a warehouse. I want to put data into a data lake. I want to put a data into the database. Now this could be Azure SQL DB or it could be Oracle DB, right? Multiple types of databases are there. Or let's say I want to put it into Snowflake, right? Another data warehouse. So this is one connection. This is one connection. This is one connection. This is also one connection. This is also one connection. Now from ADF, what you do is the service that lets you connect to these different data stores is called as a link service. We've already created many link services, right? We have connected to a SQL data warehouse also. We have connected to a data lake also. We have connected to an Azure SQL database also. These three link service we have already seen, correct? Now, Azure integration runtime is good when you want to connect to cloud-based resources, not link services. the integration runtime, the Azure integration runtime, which we also sometimes call as AIR. So this compute is really good when your data is present in a cloud environment, right? When you want to, let's say, get data from a SQL database hosted on Azure, if you want to get data from any other places, right? So it's really good. But when you want to get data from on-premises environment, then this Azure integration runtime is of no use. All right. It doesn't help in that case. Whenever you want to get data from on-premises environment, this Azure integration runtime is now useless. All right. You cannot transform your data, you cannot move your data from on-premises environment using Azure integration runtime. So what we have to replace it is something called as SHIR. S stands for self, H stands for hosted integration runtime. Let me write self also in caps. So SHIR stands for self-hosted integration runtime. All right, self-hosted because you need to install it on your machine in the on-premises environment wherever you want to create that connection. With Azure Data Factory, you install an application. The name of that application is also very simple. It's Microsoft Integration Runtime. So we have this application called Microsoft Integration Runtime that you need to install on your machine. So we'll try and understand, all right, the self-hosted integration runtime now in more depth, right? Now, we all know that for many years, companies have put most of their data, right? All of their information and most of their information in their own computers and own servers, right? Companies tend to do that. They were not forced to do that. That was the only option also available because before 2010, cloud computing was not very popular, right? So historically, companies have always used their own computers, their own servers, creating their own data rooms, right, or server rooms as you call it, or data centers you call it, right? And they have been keeping this data there. And these machines, wherever they store it, right, it's physically located within their own buildings, within their own campuses, whether it's an office building, or a special computer room, as we call it, as a data center, right? And this environment where you are using your own computers, your own servers, is called as on premises, right? Own computers, on own servers in your own location is called as on premises. This is how you define on premises, right? It's like your house, everything inside your house, your furniture, your bed, your kitchen, right? Everything is yours, right? It's your private physical space, and that is what the organizations also wanted, their private physical space, right? Now within your house, you will have walls, you will have doors, you will have all the locks and everything. In the same way, also companies on premises network also will have its own secure space. It will be protected by digital locks. It will have firewalls, right? Security will be there. Now, then came cloud, correct? And when cloud came, we started using, instead of private personal physical space, we started using something which is a shared public space.
So,
That is the
Shreyas,
cloud.
so what will
Mhm.
happen when this application goes down, like the Microsoft integration runtime, right? So we will
It
be
generally,
having multiple agents in one environment, like a one
mhm.
run environment, or
See, generally, when the pipeline execution starts, integration runtime is important, correct? If integration runtime is, let's say, down, that means your host itself is down. All right. So the pipeline execution will fail. It will obviously retry again. All right. And then if the machine has gone down, then it's a separate scenario altogether, right? Where you have to worry about getting your machines up and ready, right? Backups of your machine, whatever it is, correct? All right. So as long as the
Mhm.
machine is working fine, the integration, self-hosted integration runtime, the agent will also work fine on the machine.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, fine. So then we had cloud, right, where everything is now managed by companies like Microsoft, or AWS or GCP, right? And when your company it uses cloud, right? When it's renting a small secure space on these big data centers, right? So there's a wall between the two worlds now, right? Now we have a challenge. The on-premises world is a private and a locked world, whereas the cloud world is a public and accessible over the internet world, right? And there's a firewall also between them. So this wall is designed to protect the private office network from public internet. That is what you do. All right. Just 1 second. Yeah. Now with self-hosted integration runtime, right? What are you trying to achieve? Right? What do you want? So what happens when a company wants to move their data from this private cloud to the public space? But then in between, I have the firewalls also, right? They might want to copy their daily sales record from a server which is kept in their office to, let's say, Azure platform, right, for more powerful analysis. So how do they get their data safely through that security wall, right? Because this firewall between the public and the private space, right, it is designed to protect your private network, correct? Firewall is always designed to protect your own network, not the internet. I don't want to protect internet, right? I want to protect myself. So it's a locked front door into your house, into your network. Now Azure integration runtime here, what it does is the default, right, the built-in integration runtime, which is the Azure integration runtime. It's really good, right? And the limitation also we discussed. One major limitation that it lives and works entirely inside the cloud world. All right, Azure integration runtime totally works in the cloud world. All right, it is a worker who's already inside this giant secure storage facility, right? The Azure cloud. And this worker is excellent at moving boxes from one storage unit to another storage unit, right? Within the same facility. Within Azure, it will be able to do it. Within cloud, it will be able to do it. If your data is already in Azure and you want to move it to another place in Azure, the Azure integration runtime is a perfect tool for the job, right? And that is what we've been doing until now. We've been moving data from data lake to data lake. We move data from data lake to database, right? We've done that. But what happens when you ask Azure integration runtime to go to your private office and pick up a box of data? The worker can't do it. All right. They will walk up to the front door at your office building, that is your firewall, and find that this door is locked. I cannot go. I cannot leave the local area. Right? They don't have the key, and the security guard would let them go out also. So the Azure integration runtime has no way to reach inside your private on-premises network. All right, and that is where the self-hosted integration runtimes comes in. Since the cloud worker can't get in, we need a new strategy. What if we could hire somebody who's a trusted worker who's already inside my office building? If somebody is already inside my private and personal space, right, they can move the data, right? They can do it, right? We could give them special communication to go securely to the cloud, and their main job is to handle the data inside the secure walls of my private network. And that is what self-hosted integration runtime is. It's not a physical person, of course, right? It's a small secure piece of software that you install on your own computers or on your own servers inside your private on-premises network. That is why we call it self-hosted, because you're doing it within your own network. You are installing it within your own network. Therefore, self-hosted integration runtime, because it provides compute. All right. So once installed, it will act like your trusted insider. It is your bridge, your gateway, your secure messenger that will connect your, let's say, private office network to the world of Azure cloud. right? And it will be able to do that. How does it do it? So you might be wondering, right? If my office firewall blocks all the incoming traffic, how can Azure Data Factory talk to self-hosted integration and time? So because what we are trying to achieve now here is, this is your home, this is your machine. On this machine, I'm going to install this SHIR, right? This is cloud, right? Obviously, it's not a cloud, it's a physical location where the data center is, but let's assume it's cloud. Here I have my ADF and I want to access data from my on-premises environment into my ADF, right? So this connection of home and cloud is made possible by SHIR. It is made possible by this. Now, the self-hosted integration runtime does not wait for the cloud to call it. It knows that a firewall would block that incoming call. Instead, as soon as it starts running, the self-hosted integration runtime will make an outbound call. It will start making these outbound calls to my Azure Data Factory. All right. So most firewalls are configured to allow outbound traffic, right? They generally try and block the inbound traffic, but you can allow outbound traffic, right, from your firewall in order to activate it. All right. So that is fine. Now, let's see how you install this on a machine and then connect it to your data factory. So I'll show you. So to demonstrate this, I have one virtual machine which I will treat as a personal computer. So this Terraform VM, I will treat this virtual machine as a personal computer. Let's click on connect. So I'll connect to the virtual machine and then I'll show it to you. So I have the virtual machine up and running now. I'll just bring it to the screen. Wait. All right. So this is my virtual machine. All right. This is Windows Server Edition. So I'll just close this server manager. This is fine. So if you search for Microsoft integration runtime like this, so this is a VM, right? I'm opening the Terraform virtual machine here. If I bring it here, you will be able to see, right? So this is a virtual machine. So I'll maximize it. So I'm within a virtual machine now. So within this virtual machine, I searched for Microsoft integration runtime. Let me put download also. So download Microsoft integration runtime and click on download. So then it will give you a version to download. I think we can go with this integration runtime, right? This is the latest one, 5.57. I'll download it. All right. So let's install it now on my machine. Click on next, accept, click on next, next, install. All right. So it's done, right? So integration runtime is installed. Now, what this integration runtime is going to help me achieve is, so what I said was that this is a virtual machine that I have created. This virtual machine will act like my personal computer, and I'll treat this virtual machine as my personal computer, and I'll show you how you can connect. So what we did, we installed an application here called self-hosted integration runtime, right? Not the self-hosted integration runtime, but Microsoft integration runtime. I installed it on this machine. Now this software will help me connect to ADF. All right, let's see how. Okay, let me establish the connection with the computer again. So the good part here is that the computer, whatever we were running within the machine, right, it'll still be up and running. It'll not be a problem there. So there's multiple ways of connecting to it. One is I can just copy the public IP, open the what's it, remote desktop connection on my machine. So I'll paste the public IP address over here, 4.247.247.16738, 4.247.16738. If I click on connect. So in Data Factory, what you need to do is, in order to connect your Data Factory over here to this virtual machine, right? So this is the virtual machine that we created. Let it load. What you have to go to new, and in new I have to go to Azure self-hosted. Click on continue. Select self-hosted. Click on continue again. I'll call this SHIR, right? All right. Let's click on create. All right. Now self-hosted integration runtime is created. The authentication key, what it is used for, let's see. If I come back to my virtual machine, Let me open internet and sign in without your data. Confirm and continue. Continue without Google data. This is fine. Confirm. Start browsing. Download Microsoft integration runtime. I'll select this. Let's download it and install it again. Download. Select the version. Click on downloads. It will be done within seconds. Minimize this. So here we get two keys. All right. Then there is the name of the node itself, auto update, sharing, right? I'll tell you all of this. Let's just have the virtual machine ready first. Okay, so I think it's downloaded now, or it's getting downloaded. I can go to the file system within my virtual machine. It's here. Let's open it from here directly. Preparing to install. Let me get rid of the server manager also. Click on next, accept, next, next, install. Just give it a minute. It will be installed. Just wait for it to get completed. All right, finally it's done. We'll click on finish. And now my integration runtime will open up. So we'll have to configure it. So this is your Microsoft Integration Runtime Configuration Manager. This is what you're going to use to connect to your data factory. Now the only thing it asks for is the authentication key. Where is the authentication key? Authentication key is over here. All right. You can use either key 1 or key 2. Anyone you can use, or you can regenerate the authentication key also in the same manner we did it for the storage account. Let's copy key number 1. All right, and go back to my virtual machine, and I'll paste this key over here. All right, let's click on register fast before any more problems we face. Right, so what you have to do, you have to click on register and see now SHIR VM is connected to SHIR. All right, I'll finish this. Let's click on finish, and when I come back now to my data factory, right, let's see. If I close this, I am able to see my self-hosted integration runtime over here. It'll take some time, right, for it to be available. Within, I think, some 5-10 minutes, it will show as available, right, because it's taking up that time over here to set up. We'll click on finish, and it's done. So it's now connected to the cloud service. Once this is finalized, if I go back here now, right, and if I refresh it, within some time, it will start showing as available. Let it initialize completely. All right, so it's running finally now. Limited running, all right. Self-hosted, this is fine. You can see the details also, right? So it's now running, all right. So my self-hosted integration runtime at least is running now. Fine. So we'll stop here, all right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for joining in, guys.